everyone, I am Nikita Murthy, Faculty of Information Science and Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. Today we are going to study a topic called Connectionless Protocol, that is UDP, User Datagram Protocol. We are going to study a topic called Connectionless Transport Protocol, that is we are going to study UDP. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol, which is a connectionless protocol. That means here, unlike TCP, it does not establish the connection between the sender and the receiver. Without establishing the dedicated connection, your UDP will transfer the messages between the sender and the receiver. Now, under this topic, let us study let us study briefly about the UDP. How does it work, where does it work, why is it required, all these information we are going to study under this. Now, let's assume that we are going to build a transport layer protocol. We are going to build a transport layer protocol. Let us suppose we want to build the transport layer protocol. What do we want this protocol to be? How do we want this protocol to work? Means we want that protocol to receive the message from the sender, that is from the application. The application will be running in the application layer. We want this protocol to receive the messages from the application that is running in the application layer, and then it has to transport it to the layer under beneath that. That means it has to transfer it to the network layer, and then at the receiver side what it has to do, the protocol has to receive the message from the network layer, and then it has to deliver the message to the application that is running in the, again at the receiver side in the application layer. That means, let us suppose here is the application layer, then comes transport layer, beneath that network layer. All these three layers are at the sender side. Now, again at the receiver side, application layer, then comes transport layer, beneath that network layer. This is on the receiver side. So, if we want to build a transport layer protocol, what do we expect from that? We expect a transport layer protocol which is working in the transport layer. We want it to receive the message from the application running in the application layer, and then transfer the message to the network layer. This is all happening in the sender side. From the sender side, what we expect, the network layer has to transfer the message to the receiver side. After transferring it to the receiver side, we expect the protocol to receive the message from the network layer of the receiver side and deliver the data to the recipient application which is running on the receiver side application layer. Now, suppose if the transport layer protocol is UDP, if this transport layer protocol is UDP, if we are using UDP as the protocol in the transport layer, what do we expect from that? It has to receive the message from the application layer, send it to the network layer, and then at the receiver side receive the data from the network layer and then give it to the application layer. Here UDP not only just transmits the data, it will also do much more than that. As you saw in the last session, it also does multiplexing and demultiplexing. Why do we use demultiplexing and multiplexing? To transmit the data from the sender to the receiver correctly, isn't it? To transmit the data or to pass the data from the sender to receiver, UDP uses multiplexing and demultiplexing. Not only that, while sending the messages, it also adds source port number and destination port number. Why do we need source port number and destination port number? As we saw in the first module, we know to identify a particular application running or a particular host, we need port number. That means using port number, we are going to recognize the application running on a host uniquely, isn't it? That is why it is going to add source port number and destination port number to identify who is the sender, which application is the sender and which application is the receiver. To identify that, it is going to add source port number and destination port number. Not only that, it will also add all the necessary information also. And then what happens from the application layer, when the UDP receives the message, it will encapsulate it to UDP datagram. It will encapsulate the message received from the application layer into the UDP datagram, and then it will send this UDP datagram to the network layer. Network layer, what it does, as we know, network layer will receive the message UDP datagram and it will convert it to the IP datagram. It will convert it to the IP datagram or IP packet. It will convert the UDP datagram into the IP datagram or IP packet. As we know, IP is an internet protocol, it is a protocol which runs in the network layer. So, this network layer, after converting it to the IP datagram, it will send it through the network to the receiver. Here at the receiver side, what happens? After receiving the IP datagram, it will send that IP datagram to the transport layer. Here also your UDP will be working as the protocol in the transport layer. What it does? It will receive that IP datagram and it will extract the message and it will again encapsulate it to the UDP datagram and it will send it to the application layer using the destination port number which was added in the sender side. Using that destination port number, it will identify the application and then it will deliver the message to the proper recipient. Here we need to know a important concept or important note is that UDP is connectionless. I told it in the earlier only, but why is UDP connectionless? Means unlike TCP, it does not use three-way handshake. It does not use or doesn't do three-way handshake. That means in TCP what happens? The TCP, while sending the message to the receiver, it will check whether the receiver is reachable or not. To check that, it will just send that I want to establish the TCP connection with you. This message it will send it to the receiver. After receiver receives that message, that it will send that yes, I am reachable, you can establish the connection. That means, now suppose this is the sender, this is the receiver. If you want to establish the TCP connection means, from here it will send that to the receiver that I want to establish the connection. After receiver receives this message, what the receiver will do? Receiver will send the message back that yes, I am reachable, you can establish the connection, and then the sender side what does it do? It will establish the TCP connection. That means it is a three-way handshake. That means between sender and the receiver we are communicating 3 times before establishing the connection. This three-way handshake, this connection establishment is not there in the UDP. As soon as it receives the message, it will directly send it to the network layer without establishing any dedicated connection. That is why we call UDP as a connectionless. A very good example for the UDP, the application layer protocol, or the example for this is DNS. As we know, DNS is a domain name system. DNS is a domain name system. Why do we use DNS? We use DNS to convert the host name to IP address. We had studied this already. DNS is the very good example of the connectionless UDP. That means DNS works on UDP protocol. So, as we know, DNS is a application layer protocol. Now, suppose if we want to convert a host name to IP address, that means we are asking a query to the DNS server from the DNS user agent. So, whenever we want to ask the query, what we do? We use UDP. That means DNS, when it wants to ask the query, it will generate the query from the user agent. It will use the UDP. It will use UDP protocol to send the message. That means UDP will receive that query from the application that is running on the application layer. That means from the DNS, it will receive the query, it will encapsulate it into the UDP datagram, and then it will send it to the layer beneath that is network layer. The network layer, after receiving it, it will convert it to the IP datagram, and then it will send it to the DNS server. The DNS server, after receiving it, it may respond it. As we know, UDP is a connectionless protocol. If it is a connectionless protocol, it is unreliable data transfer. That means it is based on unreliable data transfer. There is no guarantee that the message which you have sent, it will be correctly received by the receiver. That means while traveling, as there is no dedicated connection, while traveling the packet may get lost, the packet may be manipulated, some bits may get misplaced. So, because of these reasons, there is no guarantee that the UDP, the message that is sent in the UDP will be correctly delivered to the recipient. That is why it is a connectionless and it is a unreliable data transfer protocol. So, as it is unreliable data transfer, so if the DNS has sent the query and it is not received by the DNS server, what happens? Now, suppose DNS user agent as asking the query to DNS server using UDP as the protocol. While sending, the packet may have lost as there is no dedicated connection. So, what happens? The DNS user agent will try to reconnect to the DNS server, or it may try to resend the message, or it may say that the DNS server is not reachable, please to try another DNS server. So, these kind of message it may receive. So, why do we use DNS? So, even though UDP is a connectionless, why do we use DNS upon that means? Because in the DNS we can tolerate a data loss, but we want a faster transmission. That means we do not want a connection to be established and then it has to be transferred. It is going to take time. That means in the if you use TCP, what happens means TCP will first use the three-way handshake to establish the connection and then it is going to transfer the message, which is time taking, time consuming. If we use UDP, what happens? It will just receive the message from the upper layer and immediately send it to the lower layer, as it is not establishing any connection. That is why we want DNS to be fast transmission rather than a reliable data transfer. That means we can tolerate the data loss, but we want it to transmit the message fastly. So, as I said, UDP is unreliable. That means there is no guarantee that it is going to deliver the data properly to the recipient. Even though it is unreliable, why are we using UDP? We can use TCP for every application, isn't it? But the answer is no. UDP is also useful for certain applications. The first reason why is it useful is, the first reason is that means the first reason is finer application level control over what data is sent. I said UDP, as soon as it receives a message from the application layer or the upper layer, it will send the message back to the layer beneath that, that is network layer, without any delay, because it is not establishing any connection. It, as soon as it receives the message, it will send it to the layer beneath that. But the TCP, what happens? It uses congestion control. That means while receiving from the upper layer, if it is above the bandwidth, if the queue is full, it will try to stop the messages from receiving. That means it does not want the network to be congested, it does not want the network to be traffic jammed. So, if we simply keep on receiving and keep on give it to the network layer, what happens? The network will get overhead, it will get jammed with the over messages, isn't it? For this happen, TCP uses congestion control, but this congestion control is not there in the UDP. So, when we want some application where if it is able to overcome some few, or it is able to tolerate few data loss, means it can use the UDP when it wants a faster transmission, because UDP does not waste time in connection establishment. That means it gives faster transmission of packets when compared to the TCP. The second reason is that no connection establishment. As we know, UDP does not establish any connection, but TCP uses three-way handshake to establish the connection, which is very time consuming. That means the TCP on the sender side, it has to send the message that I have to establish the connection, are you reachable? The receiver will say, yes, I am reachable, you can establish the connection. After getting this acknowledgement, the sender will try to establish the TCP connection with the receiver. After this establishment only, the TCP will transfer the messages from sender to the receiver. This time consuming connection establishment is not there in the UDP. That is why DNS works on UDP rather than TCP, but HTTP works on TCP than UDP. Why? Because we want, in the HTTP we want a reliable data transfer. Even though it does not provide a faster transmission, we want a reliable data transfer. That is why we use TCP. But in the DNS we want even though it is unreliable, we want a faster transmission. That is why in the DNS we use UDP rather than TCP. The next reason is no connection state. The next reason is no connection state. When TCP is sending the messages or when it is establishing the connection, it saves a few information regarding each packet or each message, like receive and send buffers, sequence number, acknowledgement number, congestion control parameters. Like these additional information it tries to save. The TCP tries to save all these information regarding each packet in its server. So, as it is processing all these information in the server, it can cause performance overhead. So, for this reason that we use UDP. UDP does not store all this connection state information. Because of that, we can, as there is a less parameters to be processed, we can serve a lot more clients compared to TCP. The fourth reason is small packet header overhead. The fourth reason is small packet header overhead. That means in the TCP, the message format has a 20 bytes header. That means lot of header information. As we saw in the connection state, it saves a lot of information regarding a packet. But in the UDP, it has only 8 bytes. That means a small header. That means the processing is very easy and the performance overhead is reduced. Because of all these 4 reasons, UDP is better than TCP. As you could see in the diagram, they have listed a few application layer protocols and the application running in the application layer protocols and the protocol underlying beneath that, whether it is TCP or UDP, which transport layer protocol it is using, they have tried to listed it. As you could see, the first application is electronic mail. As we saw in the first module, electronic mail uses SMTP as the application layer protocol. The underlying transport layer protocol which it uses is TCP. Again, remote terminal access, it uses Telnet as a application layer protocol, and then underlying transport layer protocol is TCP. Then next, web, we know it uses HTTP as application layer protocol. Even HTTP uses TCP as transport layer protocol. Next is file transfer. For file transfer, we use FTP. Even FTP uses TCP as transport layer protocol. Next is remote file server. It uses NFS as application layer protocol, but it typically uses UDP. Here it is typically using UDP as transport layer protocol. Next is streaming multimedia. Streaming multimedia and internet telephony. All this, that means internet telephony means internet conference, internet telephone. Both of these uses, it can use UDP or it can use TCP, however it is comfortable. Next, network management uses SNMP. Network management uses SNMP as application layer protocol, and it typically uses UDP as transport layer protocol. Next, routing protocol. Routing protocol uses RIP as application layer protocol, then it also typically uses UDP as transport layer protocol. Next is name translation. Name translation means DNS. Here DNS is the application layer protocol. Next, underlying transport protocol is typically UDP. So, that means network management, routing protocol, name translation and remote file transfer. That means NFS, SNMP, RIP and DNS. These 4 applications typically uses UDP. Why? Because they want faster transmission rather than reliable data transfer. I mentioned for streaming multimedia, it can use TCP or UDP. That means if they want a faster, higher bit rate stored media to be, or stored audio or video to be streamed means they can use UDP or TCP, but using TCP is bit controversial because as we know UDP does not provide congestion control. That means if we just keep on receiving the message, a higher definition stored audio or video, if you are going to stream all of these and we are going to keep on congesting the network, do not you think the congestion will again reduce the performance of the network? Yes, for this reason using of UDP in the streaming multimedia is bit controversial. Next topic which you are going to study under this UDP is UDP segment structure. Next topic which you are going to study is UDP segment structure. So, this is the UDP segment structure. So, here it has, this is the header, this part is header which is a 8 bytes, which is of 8 bytes, and the whole width is 32 bits. The whole width is 32 bits. It has, in the header it has 4 fields. The first field is source port number. As I said earlier, we use port number to identify the application which is running on a host. That means we want to know which is the sender application. To identify that, we use source port number. So, if we are from to whom we have to send, who is the receiver, to identify that we use destination port number. To identify which is the recipient application, to identify that we use destination port number. To here, just to identify who is the sender and who is the receiver, we use source port number and destination port number. And length is nothing but what is the amount of data, what is the length of the data and what is the length of the message which you are going to send, that we are going to specify it in the length field. And here this is of very useful field, checksum. Here UDP provides a very important feature called error checking. As it is a connectionless, there is a chance that the packet may get deformed. That means it may get replaced or it may get reordered. That means bits get replaced or packet may get lost. Because of these chances, it provides for error checking. This error checking mechanism here we call it as checksum. Here we use checksum for error checking, and then the header is followed by the application data, which is nothing but the message which you are going to send it over here. So, this is the typical UDP segment structure. The next topic which you are going to study under UDP is UDP checksum. UDP checksum. As I said, we use UDP checksum for error checking. We use UDP checksum for error checking. If there is some bits has been replaced, if it has been reordered, to check that we use UDP checksum. Now we will see how it works. Before we move into the process of UDP checksum, I want you to remember one truth table, that is here if you want to add a 2 bit, if you want to do the summation of 2 bits, we want you to remember this truth table. So, when A is 0 and B is 0, sum will be 0, carry will be 0. So, when A is 1 and B is, so A is 0 and B is 1, sum will be 1, carry will be 0. When A is 1 and B is 0, again sum will be 1, carry will be 0. When both A and B are 1, sum will be 0, carry will be 1. So, this is how we do the summation of bits. Please do remember this. So, this is the truth table for the summation of bits, which we are going to use it in the UDP checksum. Now, suppose I am sending a message with 3 16-bit words. So, I am sending a message from sender to receiver which has 3 16-bit words. Let us see what are those 16-bit words. So, if suppose these are the 3 16-bit words which you are sending from the sender to receiver, to check whether there has been any bits replaced, to check whether there has been some error occurred, what we are going to do is, first we will summate this. First we are going to add these 2 bits. First we will add these 2 bits, obtained summation or obtained sum of these 2 bits, then we are going to add it to the third bit. How it going to work? We will see now. First consider these 2 sequence, that is so, these are the 2, I have written it again, these are the 2 sequence of 16-bit words. Now, we will do the summation of these bits using the truth table I have said. So, if we use that, what we are going to say? 0 plus 1, 1, 0 plus 0, 0, 0 plus 1, 1, 0 plus 0, 0, 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 0, 1, 1 plus 1. See here 1 plus 1, we encountered 1. When it is 1 plus 1, the sum is 0. When we encounter 1 plus 1, sum is 0, carry 1. Carry will be, we will put carry to the next bit. Here 1 0 0, 1 0 0 is 1, 0 1 1, 1 0 1, 1 plus 1. Again here we encountered 1 plus 1, sum is 0, carry 1. Next 1 0 0, 1, 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 0, 1, here 1 plus 1, sum 0, carry 1, 1 0 0, 1. So, this is the sum of these two 16-bit words. So, for this sum, what we are going to do? We are going to add this third sequence. For this sum of these two 16-bit words, we are going to add the third sequence. I have written it again. This is the sum of the first two 16-bit words and this is the third 16-bit word. Now, let us try to summate this. Here again 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1, 1 plus 0 plus 0 1, 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1. Here again 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1, 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1, again 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1, 1 plus 0 1, 1 plus 0 1, here again 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1. Now, here we have a special case. Now, we have 3 ones, that means 1 plus 1 plus 1. When we encounter this, we have to make sum also as 1, carry also 1. When we encounter 3 ones, 1 plus 1 plus 1, that time what happens, sum will also be 1, carry will also be 1. Again here 1 plus 1 sum 0 carry 1, again we have encountered 3 ones, that means sum is also 1, carry is also 1, 1 plus 1 0 carry 1, 1 plus 1 0 carry 1, here 1 plus 0 1. Now, here 1 plus 1 sum is 0. To put the carry to the next bit, we do not have any bits, is not it? This carry 1 will be discarded. This carry 1 will be discarded. It will be overflowed. It will be overflowed. So, we have to discard the extra carry bit. So, now this is the sum of all the 3 16-bit. Now, what we have to do? We have to do the ones complement for this. Do ones complement. So, we have to perform ones complement to this summation of all the bits. That means, we have to convert zeros to 1 and ones to 0. If we encounter 0, convert it to 1. If we encounter 1, convert it to 0. That is what is a ones complement. After performing ones complement, what we are going to get is 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 0 1. So, after performing the ones complement, the answer which you are going to get, the sequence of bit which you are going to get is the checksum. So, this is the checksum. Now, we got the checksum. To check whether any error has occurred while transferring the message from sender to receiver, what we are going to do is, we are going to add this checksum to this one. If we add this checksum to the summation of all the bits, then if we get all ones, that means there is no error. If we encounter any zeros in between, that means the error has occurred. Now, let us see, let us try to summate these two sequences. Let us see whether we have encountered any error or not. Let us see whether any error has occurred while sending from sender to the receiver. I am going to add checksum to the summation of all the 16-bit words. So, this is the summation of all the 3 16-bit words and this is the checksum we got. When we summate this, we will got all ones. So, when we summate this, we got all 16 bits as ones only. That means, no error has occurred while transferring from sender to the receiver. Now, suppose if we encountered any, if you have encountered any 0 in between, means some error has occurred, this particular bit has been replaced or this particular bit has been changed while transferring. So, with this procedure, with this checksum, we are going to check whether the error has occurred while sending from sender to the receiver. With this, the UDP concept is finished. Thank you.